In today's video, we're going to be using Python's turtle module to create ourselves this cool pattern that you see on your screen at the moment. Now, it's a bit hard to tell just from looking at it, but it's actually made up of a bunch of octagons that are rotated around a central point. Alright, so to get started on making this today, let's head on over to our Python editor. I'm using Mu. And the first line of code, as always when we're using the turtle, is from turtle, import star. So it's just saying from the turtle module, we're going to import all of the functions inside of it. So we've now got access to all those functions that allow us to draw on the screen. The first function that we're going to call up from the turtle library is the speed function. And we're going to set that to speed 5. That's just going to have our turtle drawing these shapes at a medium speed. So we can watch him draw all these different shapes to create this pattern. Okay, we can speed it up later on to speed 0, where we don't have to sit around and watch him actually draw all the different shapes. Now, the next thing I'm going to call up is the bgcolor function, which stands for background color. Inside brackets and quotation marks, I just want you to set your background color to black. We're then going to select the color to use for the actual pattern itself. And in this case, I'm going to use one called green-yellow, which is pretty self-explanatory. And the final thing that I'm going to change is the pen size. So call up the pen size function and set it to 5. By default, our pen size is 1, which is a pretty skinny line, but by turning up this number here in brackets, it will make the thickness of that line stand out a bit more. Alright, so that's our setup all done. What we want to do now is draw ourselves just one octagon on the screen. And to do that, I'm going to use a loop. Okay, we know an octagon has 8 sides, so we're going to repeat some code 8 times. So I'm going to write for I in range 8. 8 standing for the 8 sides of the octagon. Now I want my turtle to go forward 100 steps first of all. That's the first line of code that's going to be repeated 8 times. Now after the turtle goes forward once, I want him to turn at a set number of degrees so he can draw the next side of the octagon. Now to work out how many degrees he needs to turn, what I need to do is type in 360 and then divide it by the number of sides, which is going to be 8. And I'm left with 45. Okay, so I'm going to turn left at 45 degrees. I could have turned right, but in this case I'm going to go left. Alright, and that's it. So those 2 lines of code there will be, will be repeated a total of 8 times to create the octagon. Let's just save that as octagon pattern and then give it a run, and you should see a single octagon get drawn on your screen. Okay, what we want to do now is repeat this shape a number of times, so it does pretty much a full revolution, a full 360 degrees to create that pattern. So we're going to need to repeat this octagon another 8 times. So we'll have 8 octagons overlapping one another. Okay, to do that we're going to use another for loop, and it looks pretty similar to what we've got here. It needs to go just above the loop we've already written. Okay, so make a bit of space, and I want you to write again for I in range 8, colon. Press enter and then write in left 45 degrees. Okay, so each time we draw an octagon, we're going to turn our turtle 45 degrees, and that's going to give that effect of the octagons moving around in that 360 degree revolution and overlapping each other. Alright, the last thing we need to do is just highlight this code here that draws the single octagon and press tab on our keyboard to indent it. Okay, it's part of this loop out here now, so we are going to be drawing ourselves 8 different octagons. Each time we draw them, we just swing the turtle around left 45 degrees. And that will probably do us. I'll just put in one last line of code here that says hide turtle, so we can't see the little turtle icon once we finish drawing. Okay, so that's it. That's our code to draw that pattern, so save it and run it. And you'll see quite quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 octagons get drawn on the screen, and they fit perfectly to create that beautiful looking pattern. Okay, so that's how you create the cool octagon pattern. Now, you don't have to be, you're not stuck with using octagons to create cool patterns. You can use other shapes. So I'll give you an example. One that's not going to look quite as fancy because there aren't as many lines, but it still looks pretty cool, is a hexagon. Okay, we'll use the same sort of code to get the same kind of effect. The only thing we need to change is in the for loops down here. we know with a hexagon, we've got 6 sides on the shape. So instead of repeating the code 8 times, so here and here, we're going to repeat it 6 times. So change the 8 in those 2 brackets to 6s. The other thing we need to change is the angle at which we are turning. If we were to run that code now, I'll show you what it looks like. You see it doesn't look that flash. It goes off the screen and looks something like that. It's because this angle here is suitable for an octagon but not a hexagon. So we need to do a bit of maths again quickly. We just need to do 360 divided by 6. And we're left with 60 degrees. So that's what we should be turning at to create a hexagon. Okay, so just change those 2 numbers in brackets from 45 to 60. And now we should have a better looking pattern. It'll kind of look similar to what we just created, just not as many lines though. Alright, so there you go. That's the cool pattern that a hexagon can make. Alright, so the options are endless. You just need to play around with these numbers here and do a little bit of maths. And eventually you'll end up with some cool ideas. So have a bit of play around. It's trial and error. And I'm sure you'll come up with some pretty creative ideas.